Good morning, good evening, wherever you're watching us from. My name is Dr. Chance Lewis. I would like to welcome you to the School Turnaround Podcast. I really appreciate you joining us today for a very exciting episode. I'm so excited for today. I have a guest that is someone that I am very proud of and have seen their growth in the field of education as well. So our guest for today is none other than Dr. Stephanie Woodard. She is joining us today to provide some expertise around our school turnaround issue. And for our listening audience, school turnaround is one of the most pressing issues in the field of education, particularly urban education, because for those of you who don't know, in every state around the country, we have 300 or more schools that are deemed as failing by their state departments of education. So this issue is not localized to one particular area. It is all over the country, across demographics and all of those spaces as well. So with our guest for today, Dr. Woodard, first, thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you? It's good to be here. Hi, everyone.
Good. Well, what I want to do, I want to formally introduce you, but I don't want to leave anything out. So as a rising star in the field of urban education and teacher education and school turnaround as well, I would love for you to just start us off today by telling us a little bit about your journey to where you are now and kind of a little bit of the backstory so people can understand, who you are and why we have you here on the show today. So I'll give it to you to do a little intro of yourself.
Okay, great. Well, hi, everyone. So I'm Dr. Stephanie Woodard. My journey began as a social studies teacher. I was lateral entry, so I went to school for something completely different. I wanted to be a lawyer and whatnot, and I ended up entering into the teaching field, which was really what I should have always been doing. So I was a social studies teacher in Baltimore City during a time where they were experiencing a turnaround. So they were basically going from larger high schools to then experimenting with smaller school sizes. So this was right after like 9/11. And so from there, I taught middle school and I taught high school. I taught in public schools. I taught in private schools. I taught at a charter school. And so over that time period of about 9 years, I decided to leave the classroom and then coach teachers. So what I did was I ended up joining a company that coached teachers in Mississippi, and I worked all around in the Deep South. Same thing, working with students, teachers in the public school and more rural and some urban districts there. And then after 4 years of that, I took a pause and I got my PhD with you. So that was really fun. And so
Mm-hmm.
I came out of UNC Charlotte in the middle of COVID, and during that at that point to now, I'm now an assistant professor at Lenore Ryan University. I run their Masters of Art of Teaching program, which has really been exciting, and I get to come back as the new assistant director of the Urban Education Collaborative, which I'm thrilled to be able to do.
Great. And so your unique journey has allowed you to see multiple settings in education, particularly urban education in Baltimore as well. So you have a unique perspective. And that's one of the reasons why I want to have you here on the show, because with all of those perspectives that you've experienced and now being on this side of the table with you being a professor now at a university and also working with us at the Urban Education Collaborative at UNC Charlotte, you bring a unique perspective that I'm very happy about. So, what I want us to talk about today and the focus of today's episode is when we think about the school turnaround process and thinking about supporting teachers. Because teachers, of course, are one of the most important factors, in the whole school turnaround, formula as well. But let's talk a little bit. So in your current assignment with us at the Urban Education Collaborative, one of your main focal points is relaunching one of our culturally sustaining teaching certificate programs. So talk to us a little bit, based on your experience about why that is important for you.
Well, yes. Well, first, I'm definitely glad to be and excited to be back at UNC Charlotte in this capacity. I think when we developed the certificate, I was a grad student, and we knew when at the development stage of this that we were filling a need in education, educator development. And the need is still there. I mean, the majority of the teacher workforce is still majority white women. However, the population of students is growing in its linguistic diversity as well as ethnic diversity. And I think with that, it's imperative that we prepare teachers for multicultural students. And especially in Charlotte, I believe that the Charlotte is growing at a little bit more than 1% a year, making it one of the fastest growing southern cities in the United States. And when it comes to diverse populations, especially those who are Spanish speaking, they're not necessarily going to like the California or the Floridas. They're coming to the North Carolinas and South Carolinas and Alabama's. And so Charlotte being not only a fast-paced growing city, but also a southern city that's attracting multilingual students and multicultural students, it's all the more reason to make sure that our students from various backgrounds have a teacher that not only sees them, but acknowledges them and is able to teach them and elevate their voices in the classroom. And so now more than ever, a certificate like this is so needed because the need is that much more greater than it was when we started developing this program years ago.
Great, great. And so when we think about the whole school turnaround process, we know it is hard work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's no disagreement with that. School turnaround work is hard. But in your opinion, why do you feel so many schools struggle with the school turnaround process? And then how do you feel this certificate program could help facilitate the process? So when you think about who our viewers are, they may not know what this is. So kind of weave in there also what is this certificate program and how can it facilitate that process?
Okay, so yeah, so I guess first I'll talk about why school turnaround process is so hard. And I actually went back, Dr. Lewis, you should be proud. I went back to some of the grad school books. Okay. And I was like, you know what? It's hard. It was hard then. It's still hard now. And I think one of the things that jumped out at me is that really it requires trust in time. In the book, The Color of School Reform by Hynek, he states that professional educators are not likely to support reforms perceived either to threaten their jobs or to radically change the favored way of doing things. And so oftentimes school reformers come into a district and they just set the school on fire. They set the
Mm-hmm.
school on blaze, they tear everything up. I mean, I just saw, I think it was over at FAMU where the president just got rid of
Right,
everybody.
everybody.
And
Right.
it's just like it doesn't have to be white or black. It doesn't have to be that drastic. And I think because the need is so urgent, but the solution takes time. And rather than take the time to learn the school system, the assets, the deficits, and build trust, a lot of school turnaround is really based on why like how can we make this the fastest change possible? How can we get to the finish line as soon as we can. And it really is not a sprint. I mean, we just finished the Olympics. It's not it's not the 100-yard
Mm-hmm.
dash. It's really a marathon. And I think going in with that mindset, you're able to have more sustainable change than that quick fix. And those quick
Sure.
fixes can help along the way, but that's not the end all be all. Another way is that's really hard. I found hard work really getting all the stakeholders on board. When I say stakeholders, I mean the parents, the teachers, the administrators, the community. All these groups probably agree what the need is, and they probably agree on the issues and the concerns, but they probably don't agree on how to change it. And so there needs to be some type of meeting of the minds where all the stakeholders really come together and match the change to the action that is needed. So there really needs to be agreement, and again, that takes time with building relationships. School turnaround is not about being transactional, and I know a lot of
Right.
that transactional relationships are plaguing our community. It's really about building bridges and bringing people together to agree on how to meet the needs of our students. And then the last thing I think that makes it difficult is that just staying the course. I think
Yeah.
oftentimes school turnaround can get sidetracked because it is tough. There may be a new idea, new trend, new policy, new president that will pop up and just
Mm-hmm.
kind of veers things off of track. And it's okay to allow some of those trends to seep in terms of some of those micro level changes. But when we come to like systemic change, once you have a steadfast and research-based and plan that is supported by all the stakeholders, it's imperative to just stick to that and let the plan ride out. So those are some of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I think that make students school turnaround difficult. But when it comes to the culturally sustained teaching certificate, I think as an avenue to facilitate the process, I think it uses trusted and sound research. We haven't really changed it since we developed it because the research is really that good and it's still applicable today.
Right.
And I think that it's important to inform educators about not only what is culturally sustaining teaching, but how to incorporate within their classroom in real time, which is what the certificate does. It requires them to take, for instance, look at their classroom library. Is it culturally relevant? Is it showing kids what's, the mirrors, windows, and doors, or is it not? I mean, like in real time, they're actually applying what they're learning. And so I think that's one thing that I think is really helpful. Also, stakeholders have actually supported this certificate. We've had many principals, different schools have the whole school of teachers come and take this program, and it's made because it just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand from the research standpoint what is best for students, and a lot of the people who developed the certificate were also teachers themselves, and so we're not
That's
saying
right.
anything that we haven't put into practice ourselves. We're really putting a lot of real life experiences into this program, supporting it by research and making it in a way that is self-sustaining. And so those are probably the reasons why I think the certificate aligns with and can help facilitate a school turnaround.
Great, great. So when we think about that, if we zone in on schools that we know are struggling, right?
Yeah.
You've seen those schools firsthand. Um, do you think this certificate program, because given that it's 100% online and all of the things to make it convenient for educators, do you think for schools that are struggling, does that make it harder, for them to implement a certificate program like this? What are your thoughts around that?
No, I think that it's perfect for a school that's struggling because we've done all the work. We've
Yeah.
literally put everything together, and all they need to do is just plug in the educators in the program.
Welcome to the 2024 International Conference of Urban Education in Cancun, Mexico. A convergence of visionary educators, thought leaders, and innovators from around the globe.
Welcome to Cancun. Welcome to Cancun. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Engage in groundbreaking discussions, interactive workshops, and networking opportunities. From urban education strategies to fostering inclusive learning environments, this conference offers insights that reshape the future of education. Don't miss your chance to be part of this transformative experience.
It's perfect for a school that's struggling because we've done all the work. We've
Yeah.
literally put everything together, and all they need to do is just plug in the educators in the program. Like you said, it is 100% online, it is self-paced, and it will give the educators an opportunity to apply what they're learning as they're learning. It's also really a great way to hold new and veteran teachers accountable to growth. I think one of the things that we forget as a teacher is that we need, teachers are lifelong learners. And so this certificate program is great for new teachers, for onboarding new teachers in a pre-service. It's great for veteran teachers that need to be, tweaked and need to, just get brushed up on a few things. And I think for schools that are struggling, because we did all the work, it's really just a matter of plugging the teachers in. Because the goal is that the teacher is not an expert in culture sustaining teaching. That is not the goal. But they will be on their way to that point, and they'll have the tools to get there outside of their school, because the schools are already, especially if they're struggling, they already may be low resourced, and there's a lot of stress that comes with underfunded schools. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
to worry about that. The tools that they get, they can take with them. They're free after they pay for it. There's no ongoing cost to that. They just
Right.
have, they'll just kind of fill their toolbox with a lot of things that they can bring back to their schools, and they are also able to be the way to create a foundation for professional learning communities within the school, so that ongoing support and mentoring and accountability to growth can exist. So I think it's great for struggling schools.
Great, great. And because I think when most people think about it, they say, okay, my school is struggling. This is not really for me, but it definitely is based on how you describe it as well. Now, another issue that pops up in my mind that is a true challenge for particularly principals is, kind of the shortage of capable people, right? When I talk about teachers, but when they find people who are experienced on paper or have the credentials on paper, sometimes the paper and reality don't meet, right? And they're
Yes.
not prepared to go in the classroom. You've seen that firsthand, like you mentioned. When you look at the demographics of the teaching population, it's what it is. A large percentage of the teachers are white female. You have teachers from other racial and ethnic backgrounds. So no matter who they are, doesn't mean that they are adequately prepared for the classroom. So why do you feel preparation for the classroom and the certificate program kind of go hand in hand? If I'm a principal looking in at this podcast and say, well, maybe I should have this for my teachers or incoming teachers as well.
Yeah. So I think, well, research says that many new teachers are underprepared for the classroom. Surprise, surprise, right? And
Mm-hmm.
especially, and the fortunate thing is that the least prepared teachers are placed in the highest need schools. And
Sure.
so we already know that, every child deserves a highly qualified teacher. It shouldn't matter how much money their parents have. It shouldn't matter what zip code they reside. And so from teachers, especially even if they come from an undergraduate program, they're more likely to put into practice what they learn from other teachers, like when they have their clinical experiences versus what they actually learn in class. And so it's imperative that teachers engage in the work of further developing themselves as culturally sustaining educators after their teacher ed program, after their MAT program, like for instance for my students, after their undergraduate experience, because it's not a one shot at this. It has to be an ongoing professional development uh, scheme of developments over a period of time. And I think that the
Mm-hmm.
culturally sustaining certificate program can be part of that long-term scaffolding of development. I think we forget that, a lot of teachers are not experts in their content area. You know what I mean? When they come in, I
Right.
mean, the teacher shortage is bringing people who have a college degree in something and throwing them in the classroom. And they're relying on these alternative certification programs to get them ready for the class and get them at least a licensure to teach, but that does not mean that they are expert. And just like any other field, doctor, lawyer, apprentice, lawn care, you need practice over a period of time to become an expert. And it's even more so imperative because we're dealing with human lives. And so
Mm-hmm.
the CST certificate can really be part of that long-term strategy of developing teachers because it's reoccurring. This course is based on when you want it, right? It's accessible
Right.
anytime you need it. And so it could be used in rotation every year, every summer, every fall. More and more teachers can come through this program because they're going to need that long-term development. And we can just be part of that solution for that.
Great, great. And so in looking at the solutions that you mentioned, I'm a solution based person.
Yes.
That's why I live and breathe in my thinking around the solutions. So let's talk about a little bit some solutions for various stakeholders, right, as it relates to the certificate program. So I'm gonna call off a few stakeholders that I know listen to the podcast or could benefit from the certificate program. So I'm gonna just call off the stakeholder, and then you tell me your thoughts on that stakeholder group in its relation to the certificate program and why they should utilize it as well. So let's start first with school districts and schools. Right?
Okay.
Talk to me about that.
So, and I guess when it comes to school turnaround and solutions, I mean, I think school districts and schools really should be using data, from students, from parents, from teachers to really help to determine a strategic plan and garner support from all the stakeholders to implement that plan. And part of any school improvement plan is profession development. And so schools citywide, school-wide, district-wide, they're going to have professional development days. They're going to have a series, whether it's thematic or topical, they're going to need to fill in those professional development days with some type of development. Now, one of the benefits of our program is that it's not one day. It's really, I think they complete it in about 1 month, but they
Right.
can begin all together in one day, and it could be part of that long-term professional development plan or one of those professional development days or plans that school district need or typically do throughout the school year.
Great, great. So that's one stakeholder group. So let's
Okay.
second stakeholder group. Let's school boards, right? I mean, they run the district. There, many of them are not educators, right? But they make policy decisions. Formulate and enforce policy as well. So tell me your thoughts about that group.
Well, it's funny because when I was reading about the school boards, I actually think that they should take this certificate. Honestly,
Hmm.
because I think the only way that they're going to have that lens of a culturally sustaining pedagogical practices that are going to be beneficial for the school districts that they represent is that they actually engage in the work themselves. You can't fill a cup from an empty vessel, and so in order for
Right,
them to pour into their schools and really kind of model the type of the severity of how they also need to improve. I would suggest that they take the certificate and use those tools to help them frame some of the decisions that they're making. So when I thought about that, I'm like, they could take this too. It's for everybody.
right. That's true. That's true. I mean, because they come in, with what they think they know about education outside of just their own schooling experience as
Exactly.
well. But taking the program, you're right. I hadn't even thought about that. School board members taking the program, that'll be a good model for a good example as they set for their particular school districts as well.
Yeah,
All
because they
right.
would have
So
had experienced it themselves, so they can advocate it for even more, and
right.
also just have that shape the lens of which they make decisions as well.
Exactly, exactly. So let's go to another stakeholder group, one that is not addressed, particularly with school turnaround in a certificate program. So state legislators. So tell me your thoughts around that.
Yeah, so that is interesting. When I think about state legislators, I think about, increasing teacher pay, and incorporating in that teacher pay money for professional development on top of or increasing the amount that these school districts can use for professional development so that a certificate program like this would be free, and so that's what I was thinking about when it comes to school legislators. I also, we want to bring back, master level pay. We want to incentivize financially that they continue their education through certificate. Through, we have a master's in urban ed, we have a PhD in urban ed at UNC Charlotte, and so I would love for the legislators to provide more funding for school districts to provide professional development so that everybody has access to this. Money should not prevent someone from getting it developed. But we know there is a cost to all kinds of professional development. So when I think of state legislators, I think of just increasing the funding for teachers to have more autonomy over their development, and then just have more access to being developed through universities and through other organizations.
Great, great. And since you mentioned universities, let's talk about that group. Because when we think about their certificate program and school turnaround, particularly school turnaround, based off of work that I've done, particularly most recently when I was on my sabbatical leave, how universities are not really in the conversation around school turnaround as well. So tell me your thoughts around the role of the university as it relates to school turnaround in a certificate program like this.
Yes, well, as I mentioned earlier, that undergraduate degree programs historically underprepared teachers for schools, and I think it's a matter of connecting the theory to practice. I think the certificate program is practice, and so it probably would come down to really evaluating the curriculums that the College of Eds are using to develop teachers, and how a certificate like this is showing them how to put what they're learning into practice, because it does require them to do things in the classroom, do things with students. I mean, I could see this as an add-on to like a clinical course that they take the certificate program during their last semester as they're completing their clinicals, because they'll have access to students in classrooms in that time period. But again, the curriculum shouldn't have just one diversity class, right? It shouldn't have like, oh, this is the one class we talk about, linguistically diverse students. It needs to be spread. And you remember my dissertation, it needs to be spread across
Right.
all courses. Every single class should be talking about culturally sustaining pedagogy, and it needs to be broken down in bit by bit in every single course. And I think that a certificate program like ours can be like the pinnacle of that experience, right? But it really needs to start as a freshman, and like how are they engaging with race? How are they looking at their own identity? How are they understanding the demographics of the school districts that they may teach in? And then, using the certificate as a way to kind of bring all those things together and take those theoretical things into, put them into practice.
Excellent, excellent. And the last stakeholder group that I'm thinking about is parents, right? Because when we think about school turnaround and all those things that go along with that in the educational system, oftentimes parents are not necessarily discussed because it's their kid, at the school as well. So how do you see this stakeholder group of parents playing a part in this as well?
Well, it's interesting because I'm firmly a believer that parents are experts on their children.
Right.
I don't care if they have a PhD, MD, or a third grade reading level. They are experts on their own children, and I
Right.
think and one of the things I appreciated that this certificate does highlight and elevate the need to build community with parents. And so, parents, I encourage them to, get involved as much as they can, voice their opinion, get on the PTA, but also inquire about the professional development of your teachers. I know that's one of the things that I ask as a parent. How are the teachers developed? What professional development is being offered? And if that parent sees that there is a gap in their development when it comes to race, class, privilege, culture, diversity, then they can advocate that this certificate program be one of those professional developments that is used. And so parents' voices do matter. And I think that they are underrepresented because for a variety of different reasons. But I think one of the things that this certificate brings to the forefront is that they are part of the solution just like everybody else.
Excellent, excellent. So before we get ready to close, for viewers that are watching, if they wanted to contact you or find out more information about the certificate program, how can they find out or contact you and find out more information about the program?
Yeah, so my email address is S and then Jones, Jones, F as in Frank, O, at charlotte.edu. So you can email me there. Again, my name is Stephanie Woodard, so you can look me up. And you can also find information about the Culturally Sustained Certificate at charlotte.edu. You can type in the search the Urban Education Collaborative, and it's one of the programmatic initiatives that we have on the left side. I think it's like the top one, and so you can click there and you can learn all about it.
Excellent, excellent. So for our viewers that are watching, or educators or principals and other stakeholders who have budget authority and kind of thinking about this, as Dr. Woodard said, the program is 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on demand, right? Where educators could take it at their particular convenience, and it's guided into different modules as well across 4 weeks as well. And the educators who take it actually get a certificate from the university after completion of the program as well. So Dr. Woodard, I want to thank you so much for being here today, providing your expertise around school turnaround, and particularly a solution, which is the culturally sustaining teaching certificate program. We really appreciate your time today, and we thank you so much. Any final thoughts, anything you would like to share before we end this episode?
No, just thank you so much for having me. Please come and join our journey of making sure all teachers all over the state, the country, the world are culturally sustaining for our children. They deserve it. And come visit the website. I think the number for the continuing ed is 704-687-8900. So you can call that number as well to learn more about this program. And I hope I see you there.
Great, great. And I would be remiss if I don't mention, since it's my podcast, that we have the International Conference on Urban Education coming up in November in Cancun, Mexico. So for educators or other stakeholders that are out there looking for a solutions-based space to come and get solutions to some of the most pressing issues in urban education, feel free to join us as well. Just Google International Conference on Urban Education and you can find all the details as well. So, well, thank you again, Dr. Woodard, for being with us today. We will wrap up this episode. Everybody take care and be safe, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.